Development Authority. The floor is open to speak. Does anyone would like to speak? On the phone?
Madam Chair, we had no one sign up to speak.
Thank you, sir. Do we have approval of the meeting of May 19th?
Second.
In favor? Aye. Special call meeting, June 4th.
Move.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Okay. Our financial statements, we're showing here? It looks like a Lone Ranger with it.
Mass accountant is back.
Hello, Ranger.
We take up a fund to buy him a
A
regular.
regular, I have.
We put $1 a piece in.
What would happen if he went in the bank that way?
Or the liquor store.
So as luck would have it, we do have masks in the office. I'll make sure that we get some distributed to the team.
My fashion sense doesn't please everyone. First time, cool, PowerPoint. Do the second PowerPoint. Go over your cash flow activity. All your information should be on your tablets under the financial information. See if I'm a little rusty, having a few months off from being here before. The first tab, you should see for the operating account activity. We've discussed just the month of May. The operating account has over $4.7 million of operating funding on hand. For the significant cash receipts we'll cover, we're still collecting the rent from Virginia Beach National. We have about 3 months worth of rent being displayed right here that we deposited in the month of May. We also had reduced their rent for the restaurant premise at one of the previous meetings, so we've been reflecting that in this amount. You'll see here, over $30,000 coming in.
Is the restaurant now open?
The restaurant is open, yes. And you'll see your monthly, for the month of May, interest income, just over $2,400 being earned on the savings and CDs the authority maintains. For your significant cash disbursements, we have a reoccurring monthly payment to Global Links, $13,000 for the management of the conduit at a corporate landing. And then also I just wanted to highlight over $2,000 being expended for the utilities at 110 South Independence Boulevard for the vacant building over there. So your ending cash position, just over $4.7 million of operating account funding at the end of May. Happy to answer any other questions anyone has on the operating account. If not, we'll move to the incentive. And outflows, again, this is the month of May we're looking at here. Over $4.6 million of cash on hand in the account. A bit more activity for this account. We had a drawdown under your cash receipts of $1.5 million. This is the EDIP appropriations from City Council. So we're moving the cash over to the authority to cover some of the payments. I'll go shortly. We also had a little bit of interest being earned on the checking account, over $800 coming in. For your disbursements, under your Part A awards, we had a variety of payments being made there. You see the companies, Mermaid Winery, Global Technical Systems, and Life and Health, all receiving a combined over $700,000 for capital investment those companies had made within the city. We also have what we're calling a Part B award under our redevelopment item for Armada Hoffler, or AHP Tenant Services, related to the Shake Shack development that occurred in Town Center. It's a partial payment over $500,000 going to them for the improvements they've made in line with the redevelopment of the Town Center area. You'll also see related to the Dome site, had over $6,500 being expended. These are legal fees as well as some appraisal services related to the properties down there. And finally, I just want to touch upon, you'll see the bio initiative, we're continuing to pay the rent for the accelerator over at Convergence Center, almost $10,000 coming from the bio initiative funding the authority has on hand. So you see your ending cash, $4,849,977. Which carries over that next slide. We'll do a reconciliation of available EDIP funding as of the end of May. Some of the big change from the prior month, as I'm sure you could tell, was the approval of Part E funding. So there's $1.5 million of appropriation funding we have that has now been set aside, and I believe you'll see the detail reflected on your financials, set aside just for Part E. We did receive the additional $1 million appropriation from City Council. We're also setting that aside as well as a Part E commitment until that program is finalized. So as of the end of May, $267,526 in available cash and May 31st. I did just want to point out to the authority, as of July 1st, the next year's fiscal appropriation will come into effect and be reflected in that available balance, which we expect to be over $2.3 million incentive funding on hand, unless council action does additional action on top of that. So dropping down a little bit, but we have some more appropriation funding coming in shortly. Yeah, we can answer any questions anyone has on the incentive.
And Madam Chair, if I could just comment on what Sean said, just one thing for the authority to know, were it not for the unprecedented but desperately needed EDIP Part E funding that you all were approved for us to get into the hands of the smallest and most at-risk businesses in our community coming out of the COVID-19 pandemic, we'd be carrying that $1.5 million forward. So we do want to be quick to mention to the public that the small balance there is not reflective of mismanagement of that balance over time. It's reflective of a single decision to get resources to small businesses in our community that were struggling under COVID-19. And we thank you for your support of that initiative.
Thank you. The budget.
No other questions. I believe I have a second item for you now. This is the authority's operating account budget, brought for an action for approval if you so choose. We have a draft circulated among staff for some items on here. You may recognize probably most of the items appearing on here for your fiscal year 2021 budget. Just want to point out 3 items that we had a little bit of change to. The first 2 being related to the amphitheater. Look under your revenues, amphitheater administrative fee, we're not reflecting any money coming in from. Typically the rent income that we earn from the Live Nation agreement, the authority is able to retain a portion of that rent before the remainder gets remitted to the City Council. We're just budgeting conservatively for this year that those revenues won't be there for us based upon availability for Live Nation. As well as, scroll down a little bit, Cole. We have under your events, that's good, for the amphitheater box seat agreement, that payment for the 2020 concert year was made in January, so you see the $39,109 payment went out the door. With the anticipation again of there not being a concert season, we have a proposal to carry forward that amount agreement over to the next fiscal year for the next concert season. So we will still have the use of the box, but you won't see a payment reflected in the next fiscal year due to that carryover credit we have proposed for you.
Are they going to open at all the end of this year, like October, like schools are opening, or?
The information that when we were contacted by their marketing team was that at the very least there will not be a usage of the box consistent with what we've had in the past.
I don't mean the box, I mean the
If
amphitheater.
they open at all.
So Madam Chair, we don't have that information at this time.
Only that they just don't anticipate us being able to utilize the box like we were accustomed to. And our last item, I just want to point out, under the administrative expenses, our director may step in here. We have a addition for a non-reoccurring consultant fee related to the strategy development for the department. Not an annual item, but a refresher, I believe, of a report we have.
Thank you, Sean. And Madam Chair, I'm happy to comment on that. As you all know, that over the last 18 months, we've been in somewhat of a rebuild as it relates to the staff here within the office. And we're near enough to completion there that we thought it was appropriate to do a reset on our economic development strategy. We've not updated our list of industrial sectors that we're recruiting for more than a decade. We think that we have it right, but we see some interesting things in a regional study that was done with IBM 3 years ago. 2 years, it was, I think, initiated 3 years ago, completed 2 years ago, and has now been published throughout the region. We think it makes sense for us to just do a little refresher in light of the information that our regional counterpart has gotten, to see if we're still tracking in the right direction and make sure that we're maximizing opportunity. We think that that begins with economic development strategy and probably includes a refresher on what marketing strategy could be going forward, and we'd ask your support for that item.
Any questions or comments, suggestions anyone has?
Just a quick comment, not necessarily relative to this, but as we roll into 2021 with regard to the amphitheater, I think we run the risk of showing, of course, we'll show no expenditures and no budget. It may leave the impression on any printed statement that there's no cost for the use of those. I would like for us to add a note or some sort to all of the statements that are issued next year for that line item, because each statement will stand on its own and be available publicly on its own. And if it's just simply blank, it could leave the wrong impression.
Thank you.
It's a great edit. Thank you.
That is good.
If I may, one last thing, just to mention for the public that may look at this document. Sean, great job pulling this together. One thing that we would just call your attention to as you review this is the bottom line. You'll see once again, we are projecting a deficit here. We generally project a deficit every year. We would encourage because we want to put a worst-case scenario from a budgetary standpoint in front of this body. We would encourage you to look at the actual performance, where you will see that it is never our intent to bring you a deficit at the end of the year, and you'll see this year we're on track to bring in the budget well ahead of what was projected a year ago. So one of the things that's challenging for us to do when we have new items like our conduit management system that generates revenue for the authority, it's difficult for us to make an estimate this new and this early in that relationship as to what revenue might look like over the course of 12 months, how many clients we will see. So you can see we're showing that at zero, and we're assigning no revenue to that, but we're assigning the entire expense load to that, where we do anticipate that there will be revenue. So we just want to say that we don't want anyone to be alarmed by what is a projected deficit here, as that is our practice to put the most conservative budget possible in front of the authority.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? I believe we need a action item to adopt or to defer to next month. If that's right, sir?
Traditionally, you've given it, was this passed out in May?
It was not, no.
Traditionally, we'd pass it out this month and then come back next month and vote.
Certainly come back in July and adopt if you'd like.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next is a request for approval for authority joining the Hive lease between the city and DeVaris Corner LLC for limited purposes. Mr. Stiles.
Yes, ma'am. Your director can explain to you exactly what the Hive lease is going to do. It's something that staff has been working on for quite a while. I'm just here, this is going to be a lease between the city and the authority, or the city and DeVaris. And in order to get DeVaris comfortable with the city's non-appropriation language, which is in every single document that the city signs, they have asked that the authority join the lease for the limited purpose of installing an elevator in the extraordinarily unlikely circumstance that the city terminates this lease for failure to appropriate funds. We've never terminated a lease for failure to appropriate funds. We're not going to, but this is a credit enhancement that's making our friends at DeVaris happy, and we would ask you to support this, knowing that it is angels on a pinhead in terms of how large the risk we're talking about.
So, and to follow on what Mr. Stiles said quickly, I'll be very brief with what we intend to do with the Hive. We know that we need a more robust offering. We look around the region and we see the relative offerings that some of our counterparts have, and then we look around the nation at some of our colleagues and see the offerings that are in place for basically fostering of a small business ecosystem, allowing opportunities for startup acceleration and growth in the small business community. It's a place where we have been doing quite a bit of work. I want to recognize Jeff Smith, who's been leading that effort here in our office for some years now. This is an opportunity for us to create a space for those activities. And so there will be a number of activities, but The best thing I've seen on sort of fostering a small business ecosystem is a piece of research that William and Mary did for the city of Richmond in 2013, where they talk about a small business ecosystem as sort of a cyclone of activities. And you need higher ed partners, and you need community mentors, and you need small business owners, and a place for ideation. And we think that all of that happens, that and other things. We think all of that venture capital, for example, happens in this space. In addition, though, we know that coming out of COVID-19, we're going to need to heavily engage in small business assistance and recovery. So we would tell you the Hive becomes our small business assistance and recovery center for the city. Also, I'm under a charge from our city manager coming out of the city's first disparity study to establish a SWAM office, a small women and minority owned business office here. Let's shut off the.
Very nice.
They like
That was lovely, wasn't it? No,
Hearing sounds.
the other thing, we know that we need a small woman and minority-owned business office here in Town Center. That's a direct charge from City Council for me. Finally, we've been working with higher ed partners at Tidewater Community College and Virginia Wesleyan University, and we anticipate that there will be a workforce training component that also happens in this space that we're very excited to bring more information to you on once those agreements are completed. But we know that we have willing partners in both TCC and Virginia Wesleyan, and that both of those conversations are maturing. And so that is the function that we would like to bring here quickly. And Mr. Stiles is right. As someone who was actively engaged in selling the city's bonds for a while, I can tell you there's a catastrophic effect on our bond rating if we ever exercise our non-appropriation language in any of these leases. And so, in fact, it could potentially call the rest of our portfolio into question, and it would be re-rated then. And so what I would tell you is there's very little risk that that this section would, that this language would ever be used, but we do need your support to move forward. That said, the number that comes on it is just over 1.2 million. That said, again, we do not believe that there's any risk of this ever happening. Alex, anything else you need me to add?
No, sir.
Did I miss who's paying for the elevator?
So, yes, sir, that's right. We own the garage, so it would be our elevator. And by us, I mean the development authorities.
$1 million to put in one elevator?
Yes, there's a heavy utility impact in the streetscape where, all along that side of the garage where it would have to go. And so a lot of that is attributable to having to make some pretty big infrastructure lifts to accomplish the elevator.
It could be a combination of authority funds from EDIP or SSD funds, with the additional tax at Town Center for this purpose, so.
Important to note, that's right. This is capital construction. We would use the TIP and the SSD to accomplish this. That said, the cost, I don't want to speak for city council or for the city manager, but what I can tell you is the effect that exercising this non-appropriation language would have on the city bond rating would put us in a situation where the cost of just buying out the lease would be the far better solution for us. I mean, we're talking about catastrophic circumstances here.
What's the board's concern? Why are they pushing on the language?
They didn't like our non-appropriation language. And so this is the workaround that Alex and Mr. Tavares' attorney were able to come to agreement on, and it works for me because the risk of non-appropriation is so low.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So Taylor, we're being asked to agree to this, but it's highly, highly unlikely that this would ever come to pass.
That's correct. I mean, so what I can tell you is we're carrying the lease in my operating budget, which as it stands right now, but and we have isolated that. We have a 4-year pro forma just on based on present funding that allows more than enough capacity for us to continue with lease payments with as much as 20% reduction in departmental revenues. So I mean, that gets me through 4 years. I don't anticipate that there's a lot of risk here.
Thank you. What if we didn't do it?
We have to find somewhere else for the Hive.
Motion?
Sorry, what are we voting on here, though? Because this is at least with the city.
You're going to join, you would join the lease
Join the lease,
as
got it,
as
okay.
effectively a co-tenant and a traditional guarantor.
Okay, thank you.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. The next one's also Mr. Stiles. Popular man.
Well, I've been to Town Center before. This is just a request to renew your security contract for the parking garages with Tavares. You approved it back in, I believe, 2017. The initial term expires at the end of this month. There are 3 optional renewals, but they are at your option. The staff who's been working with Tavares administering it is very happy with the performance. By combining the sort of building security and parking security, you have one force as opposed to 2 different sets of guys trying to run around and keep everything safe. So this arrangement has worked well, and we'd ask that you approve the exercise of your first renewal term.
Thank you. Motion?
Question.
Yes, sir.
Why don't we bid this out?
We bid, well, actually, back up. This one, practically speaking, we can't, because Tavares, who owns the building, is providing security inside. And several years ago, we tried 2 sets, and they weren't coordinating, and it wasn't practical to do it.
It's the economy of scale that we achieve by utilizing the same security firm that's on the inside of the building, managing the garages, and it just it created a market reality that in fact, our team, Rob Freeze and his team that managed the parking system, actually did look at another firm coming into renewal, and we couldn't even get close.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Okay, London Bridge Commons.
Yeah,
there was a motion.
motion and a
Yeah,
There was a motion second.
There was?
we made the motion.
I don't know, but I know it was made.
Let's try it again.
There was no,
Okay,
I'll move.
okay.
I'll second.
Okay. And then, he has to.
And then all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. London Bridge Commerce Center, authorizing the sale of the 18.24 acre parcel known as London Bridge Commerce Center. Would you explain, about that, for people who don't know exactly where it is? It's on the corner of what,
264 London Bridge.
Great Neck? Sort of, Great Neck too, or not? Doesn't-
Well, when
London Bridge and Potters, I
London
think.
Bridge, okay, okay, thank you.
Great Neck becomes London Bridge when it crosses.
Does it? Thank you. It's a 18.24 acre parcel.
Let's go ahead and look at the disclosure first.
That's lovely.
To get the, we need to look at the disclosures. Okay, and we went ahead and summarized all the main points for the term sheets that were proposed. I mean, we worked back and forth on for an 18.24 acres along the interstate 264, east side of London Bridge. Term sheets are with Central Drive Investment Partners. The proposal is for 100,000 per acre for a total of $1,824,000. Of course, the use would be allowed under the APZ1 restrictions. And he had proposed up to 8 phases. He has a lot of prospects so far, and one SNS Precision. Their sales any manufacturing components that are already approved by Navy. He would be also responsible for all the infrastructure, including stormwater. Next one. So this is really conditioned upon the access to the Navy property. Via 75 feet egress easements. I think we're almost there. The city would acquire the easements with the condition that the petrochemical restriction be placed on the property. And once acquired from the Navy, the city, we will be responsible to build the road. We already have money appropriated in a CIP to build the road, so as soon as we receive the approval of the easements, we will move ahead with the construction of the road.
So Hassan, there won't be any access to this property from London Bridge, right? It's coming off
I
of,
believe there is one access, but it's not enough for the whole property. You definitely need another access.
The conversation with Public Works Transportation is that we would be able to ride in, ride out during construction of the road coming up from the south, but that is correct. The permanent access to the site will come through the new road,
which is off, what is that side?
Potter's Road.
So we recommend to move ahead
Thank you.
purchase agreement.
And Madam Chair, if we can just offer one point for the public. The value that was offered here was derived through an RFP that you all approved being published. So it's important to note this, the origin of this deal was a public process that led to multiple proposals, evaluation of the proposals, selection of a success, of what we believe to be the best value proposal, and then now we're bringing you these terms. And so, important to note, public process led to this.
Yeah, you've also had the Navy engaged the entire time to ensure that the uses are consistent with.
That's exactly
Every
right.
use that comes in has to be approved by the Navy.
And I think the other point is the value of this land is limited by virtue of the fact that you've got all these Navy restrictions over it.
And
So
the APZ line.
there's a limit to what could be done that got us to that $100,000.
That is correct. This piece of property is part of the APZ1 program. That is correct.
And I think Bill, I don't know if you were, there was a group of us that looked at the responses that came in, and one of the other things that we wanted to make sure was that the part of this that was facing the interstate, and I think London Bridge, we wanted to make sure that there were design criteria so that you wouldn't be looking at the side of industrial building. Because most people, when you get off of the interstate, right there to go to Great Neck, you're gonna be looking at this. And right now, it's abandoned, because I think originally this was gonna be used for a light rail station at some point. So now it's just people running their dogs, really, I think is all that it's being used for. So what it looks like is important, and I thought we had talked about a reversionary right if for some reason the property wasn't put to use in the way that we had anticipated.
So our contract contemplates that basically industrial uses with Navy approval that fit within the deed restriction only.
And they would run the risk of the access is not, or the city is acquiring an easement for that access. They will have a license to use it. And if it is an unapproved use, the Navy can pull the right to the access, which we probably pretty good instead.
Right.
Anything else? Motion?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Madam Chair, I'll abstain from this.
Thank you, sir.
And we have a letter on file for that.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Frank.
Okay. Request for approval of SASC sign waiver, Indiana West Industrial Park.
Yes, this is for Science Application International Corporation. They're leasing about 18,640 square feet of the 2829 Galvin Lane. They do a lot of defense contracts. They currently employ 106 employees. They have 106 employees and wanting to hire an additional 64 more employees in the near future. So they have proposed a sign for their building, where to show where we usually allow the allowable square footage is 24, and theirs is like 49, I believe, 49 square feet. Looking at it with the building, it doesn't look that, I mean, with the surface of the building, it's not as flashy as it might sound like, but, you know, they have been waiting since late February, and then March with the COVID and with the pandemic, they wanted to wait, so they insist for that waiver if you all allow them to move forward with that.
What road can you see this from? Is there a public road?
It's already in land.
Oregon.
Maybe
But
Phoenix.
it's not really that obvious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's-
I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Who was the second on that? Thank you.
Okay, request for approval of a resolution authorizing $350,000 UDIP Part A funds as a local match for the Development Opportunity Fund grant for Project Pinnacle. Ms. Hayes, no, it's not Ms. Hayes.
Here is an announcement that was released last night from the governor's office.
Is this what he's also today?
Pass it.
It was released last night, so that's why it wasn't in your folder to begin with. Because you were asked to keep it confidential until the governor made an official announcement. Where's the? All right, so Project Pinnacle, which everyone has been briefed on, is actually Apex Systems. They're a subsidy of ASGN. The disclosures, Paul Hyman, Armada Hoffler, and then McGuire Woods, the consultant. About the company, Apex Systems, subsidy of ASGN. They're an IT and professional staffing company. They also do a lot of consulting work. Their headquarters is relocating from California to Henrico, Virginia. They have 70 locations across the country and approximately 4,000 workers in Virginia. And they're spread out across Henrico, Northern Virginia, Roanoke, and Virginia Beach. Their location here in Virginia Beach is here in Town Center. And about this project, it's unique. We were excited to be part of it. We worked with the Virginia Economic Development Partnership and the Alliance on it. They came to us because the project wanted to expand across Virginia. This is not typical for a project in Virginia. Usually you only focus on one location. So it became a little, it was unique and a little complicated at times, but we worked through it. It was because their headquarters is going to Henrico, but they wanted to expand their locations in Virginia Beach, in Roanoke, as well as, Henrico, obviously. And they wanted to give them a $900,000 COF, Commonwealth Opportunity Fund, which all the localities have to match. Their capital investment across Virginia was $12.4 million and 700 new jobs with an average salary of $92,000. But that's across Virginia. I warn you, Virginia Beach was slightly lower because the Northern Virginia salaries were taken out. They will expand their operations here in Virginia Beach by 147 jobs and invest $1.8 million. This project is going to help with our IT vacancies around the city and the region, and then also recruit new professional talent to the city. So to us, it's not just about the 147 jobs, it's who they're also going to be bringing to the market. So our ask is to match the $900,000 COF that VDP is providing by $350,000. Henrico is going to be providing $400,000, and then Roanoke is going to be providing $150,000.
Thank you.
And
Thank you, sir.
important to note, Madam Chair, we were asking the authority to invest in the jobs only here.
Yes.
So the $1.8 million capital investment, where we are glad to have it, did not factor into our calculation, into our match with the Commonwealth. This is purely an investment in the new jobs because, again, the value for us and the return on the authority's investment is in having, one, the 147 new high-paying jobs, but in addition to that, it's the IT recruiters that are helping us close the more than 3,000 tech vacancies in the region. We also want to say, in addition to VEDP, we want to make a point to thank our colleagues at the Hampton Roads Economic Development Alliance who actually played a role in bringing this deal to our office as well.
Thank you. Won't be long until they'll want to be here totally.
And what was the value of the 147 jobs, the average salary?
We're just over $62,000 per minimum.
And
It's
hopefully,
92 in Northern Virginia and 6.
The 92,000 took into factor the northern jobs.
I have no doubt that if they start recruiting here, they will bring more millennials and tech people.
That's part of why we're so excited about it.
Who wouldn't want to live here?
Well, and especially when you look at what office will do coming out of this most recent pandemic, we think that we are uniquely positioned to have some wins in professional office going forward.
Sure. Motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Okay, so next one you too, I think, Laura. Request for a resolution, Sanjay.
All right, Sanyo, I think we're all very familiar with them. Happy to have them here in the city. Here's their disclosures. About the company, we're pretty familiar. Fine blanking manufacturer based out of Barcelona. Their North American headquarters located here in 2016. They began trials in 2018 and started delivering parts in 2018. So that's an important, I think, fact that we approved the EIP in 2016, but then they didn't become operational for another couple of years. Their primary customer is Steel currently, but we hear that they're signing another couple other contracts. And they also are a huge support to this office because they help us with recruiting other international companies to the area anytime we need testimonials or leads. When we're in Spain talking to companies, they help serve as a translator and give their first-hand account of what it's like to be here in Virginia Beach. Located off Progress Lane. Project summary. Their capital investment when they received the EDIP was going to be at $17.5 million. They currently have invested $9 million, and so they are at about 51%. They were awarded $600,000, and the amount that we have paid so far is $224,000. Their end performance period was July 2019. We've been trying to get in front of the authority for a little bit, but obviously it's been delayed. So our ask is to extend the performance period by to 2022. Well, you know that they have 2 fine blanking machines that are currently in Spain that we've seen that are worth $1 million each that they're trying to bring here to Virginia Beach. They're fine tuning them and then they're going to be shipping them to their locations here in Virginia Beach. And that is also going to initiate, we hope, the process of them expanding into phase 2 of this project. So we do believe that they are expanding and they're on the road for expansion. It's just been slowed a little bit with trying to find the right talent, bringing the right talent from Spain to train people here on their machines. And, but anything else I think?
No, I think Laura hit the nail on the head. This is a company that that came here, basically a true startup here as a supplier to steel. They have been like I say, whereas the volume from steel is what brought them here, we are glad to see that their volume is expanding and they are adding new machines and new lines here. They are working to get to their phase 2 expansion. What Laura said is true, though. The owner, the chairman of this company, Santiago Cruz, is becoming a resource for us in Spain, much like steel is for us in Germany. And so, in fact, it was Santiago that first told us that we should go talk to the Spanish Industrial Society called PEMEC, with whom we now have a trade agreement, and it has proved to be a very worthwhile endeavor as we have a number of prospects that are active there, even through the pandemic. We would ask your support for this because, again, this is a company that has located here, built a facility here, and is growing here.
Thank you. Thank you, Peter. Do you have anything to add about the company?
Well, I was going to say, I know we had talked about the fact that they've been challenged in finding the right fit for their workforce here. Have we been able to make any progress in helping them find
Yes.
qualified employees?
Yeah, that has been a challenge for the company. So I would tell you, if you back up to February of this year, we had citywide unemployment below 2.3%, paired with the highest workforce participation that we've likely ever seen. So finding employees anywhere in Virginia Beach was a challenge, and we heard that from all of our businesses. That is, no one felt that more than Seno, being new to market, learning our market. Also, fine blanking is a specific industrial process that doesn't happen anywhere else in our community. So there aren't a wealth of fine blanking technicians. So our only road to find them was to basically hire them, train them, hope that we kept them. And that has proved challenging. We also had an issue in getting 2 trainers. So again, fine blanking, very specific skill. The training associated with fine blanking also very specific. We had a little trade issue getting 2 trainers into the country, one from Canada, one from Spain. We seem to be through that now.
Thank you.
We did contact them when COVID-19 first broke out to let them know about the EDIP and try to see how they were doing. And they said that their numbers were better than they've ever been. So
Good, thank you.
I think they're expanding and they're doing well. They're a strong company. It's just taken them a little while to get started.
Is that the machine at the bottom?
No, that's not the one.
Okay.
But yes, it's important that this company has operation in Spain, Germany, China, and then here in the United States. So this is not a fly-by-night operation. This is a large industrial client that we are very that is very important to our continued manufacturing growth here in Virginia Beach.
Thank you. We had a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Here we have a request for a resolution extension for Studio Center. Mr. Towers, thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair. I'm here to present an EDIP extension resolution for Studio Center. This is our disclosure statement form. If you could familiarize yourself with that briefly. Studio Center is a national company that has clients in all 50 states and 23 countries. They have a business around broadcast advertising, and they are located just down the road here outside of the town center limits. They do have a piece of material that you may be familiar with. It is the recent rebranding 757 video. This is an outline from an aerial view of their headquarters here. As you see, Interstate 264 to the north. This is the project summary here, where a capital investment was made of $3 million. They have a tested performance of just over 65%, and due to unforeseen circumstances, they have a remaining EDIP grant to be awarded of just over $51,000. And this, as you can see at the bottom, was ending in 2019 during the month of June. As my colleague and supervisor Laura Hayes said before, we have been trying to get in front of you for quite some time. However, due to COVID-19, this has been pushed back. And the recommendation from staff is to extend this performance period to June 21st, 2020. 21.
Questions?
What was the reason for their inability?
They saw unforeseen circumstances with hiring. Speaking to the owner, some of the staffing that they were looking to bring here went to Northern Virginia at their headquarters there. And they're still looking to expand here. And as was mentioned before, the push for millennial jobs. I visited Studio Center. They have a great operation, and they attract a lot of high-paying millennial jobs here to the area.
Motion?
So move.
Second? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you very much. Does any of the commissioners have anything to add? Okay, Mr. Adams?
Just one thing from me. As you all know, we have an annual services engineering contract. That contract's been held by Kimley Horn for some time now. I've had some conversation with the officers as we were approaching what would be the one of two final renewal points. I have heard from a number of the commissioners and coming out of our closed session conversations over the last week, just to confirm to the community that we anticipate that we will be putting an RFP out on the street for engineering services in the very near future. Easton has been working on that document, and we will have it published.
It's ready.
It's ready to go with just a nod of heads from you all, basically, that this is consistent with your wishes. We will publish that this week.
Comments? Okay, thank you. The chair will entertain a motion to recess into a closed session pursuant to the exemptions from an open meeting allowed by 2.2-3711A Code of Virginia as amended for the following purposes. Contract. Discussion of the award of a public contract involving the expenditure of public funds, including interviews with bidders and offerers, and discussion of the terms or scope of such contract, where discussion in open session would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the public body pursuant to Virginia Code 2.2-3711A30. Publicly held property. Discussion or consideration of the acquisition of real property for a public purpose, or the disposition of publicly held real property, or discussion in open meeting would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the public body pursuant to Virginia Code 2.2-3711A3. Prospective business or industry. Discussion concerning a prospective business or industry or the expansion of an existing business or industry where no previous announcement has been made of the business or industry's interest in locating or expanding its facilities in the community pursuant to Virginia Code 2.2-3711A5. Motion.
Moved.
Second.
In favor?
Roll call.
David Byrne,
Would you reread that for me again? I missed part of it. Approved.
Sir, I'd be happy for you to read it.
William
Lord.
Brown,
Yes.
It has to
William
change.
Brunke,
Yes.
Taylor Franklin,
Yes.
Peter Mueller,
Yes.
Lisa Murphy,
Yes.
Another
Joe Strange,
another number.
Dot Wood.
Yes.